Good Friday morning, everyone. We made it to Friday, but it's much of the same weather-wise.
Yeah, kind of feeling like a broken record this week. I mean, for both South Central, Southeast, the Gulf Coast region, we've been holding on to that wet weather. There is some good news for today, and you can see it as we look outside. This is from our tower cam atop the station here in Midtown. You can see those clouds. They're beginning to break. We'll see some sunshine today. Going to call it partly cloudy to partly sunny conditions across the vast majority of South Central, at least for inland locations. We're still going to see that rain remaining for coastal regions. Inland locations will hold on to some spotty to isolated showers. 41 is where we're currently sitting at. We did see some wet conditions through the overnight hours when most of that rain began to push through inland locations. Already clearing out through the valley, 40 degrees in Palmer, 36 in Talkeetna. Rain continues out towards Prince William Sound. Just west of Kenai, Kachemak Bay, and Homer, we're seeing some of that heavier downpours that's occurring across Cook Inlet, but we're still keeping the showery weather with us. The good news is it will begin to wind down as we welcome in the weekend. We'll still see that showery weather for our Saturday and Sunday, more confined out towards coastal regions and isolated in nature, but this activity is gradually tapering off across South Central. It has been a wet stretch of weather that we've been dealing with. We ended April as the 5th wettest on record. You can see Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, we saw just under 1/10 of an inch of rainfall for Anchorage, and of course, heavier amounts have fallen out towards coastal regions. And then yesterday, we saw just 1/100th of an inch of rainfall. And last year, we saw just over an inch of rain for the month of May. So we'll certainly have to watch and see what this month brings. And there is the potential that it will be another wet one. Those temperatures today warming into the upper 40s and some lower 50s. You can see that peaks of some sunshine staying with us throughout the day. I'll have more on that weekend forecast and this wet weather pattern for you coming up.
Alaska state troopers have made an arrest in a case that shocked Wasilla last fall. A teenager found dead on a powerline trail. Now a man is facing murder charges. Alaska state troopers say 45-year-old Sean Mobley gave 16-year-old Elena Tonis fentanyl and then left her alone as she overdosed and died. Her body was found behind a business near Selden and Bogard Roads. Tonis had been a student in the Matsu Borough School District. The district says she last attended Matsu Central before dropping out last year. Mobley is now charged with second-degree murder and manslaughter. An update this morning in this week's deadly plane crash near Nanwalek. State officials now confirm the airstrip doesn't meet safety standards. And as Quinn White shows us, a long-delayed plan to build a safer runway may now get new attention.
The NTSB now believes that the pilot Daniel Bunker crashed trying to avoid a dog on the airstrip in Nanwalek. But taking a closer look at that runway, we can see there's not much room for error. This is what the runway looks like now, surrounded by mountains with oceans on both sides of the airstrip. A Department of Transportation spokesperson now telling us the runway is not up to FAA standards, and they're looking to build a new runway.
By relocating this airport, we'd be able to get a longer runway, a wider runway, one where there can be a taxiway. We'd be able to add lighting, runway markings, navigational aids, all things that aren't possible at the current airport.
The new runway would be located between Nanwalek and Port Graham. The DOT would also build a road connecting the two communities. However, the department doesn't have a timeline for when that will be completed. They say the project is still in its planning stages. Quinn White, Alaska's news source.
A powerful walk through Anchorage is sending a message that's hard to ignore. Yesterday, community members took part in the annual awareness walk for missing and murdered Indigenous people. The walk began at the ANSET building and stretched to Providence and back. It was a moment of remembrance and resolve. For many, it's personal. They say cases involving Indigenous victims too often go uninvestigated or unresolved. This walk served as a public call for accountability and action.
What I hope comes out is that we come together as a community and that we help at large Anchorage community see that this is a big issue, that all of our community members need to be involved in order for us to change those dire statistics and numbers in order to have an impact.
Dance groups performed in honor of missing Indigenous people. Alaska leads the nation in MMIP cases per capita. Awareness events like yesterday's walk and a new state law passed in September are aiming to bring urgency and unity to the fight for justice. From Alaska to the White House, the streets around the world, May Day has once again ignited a global call for justice. President Trump and Elon Musk defended massive DOGE cuts, while protesters in Alaska and beyond rallied for workers, wages, and rights. Olivia Nordyke was on the ground for one of more than a dozen May Day protests held statewide.
You can see behind me there is a large crowd of protesters here in the Anchorage Park Strip. That's one of several protests going on in Alaska on May 1st, also known as May Day. May Day, also known as International Workers' Day, and often marked with political demonstrations.
This event specifically on May Day, this is about celebrating workers and the working class, and really the theme of this event is the working class over the billionaire class.
Aubrey Weber with the advocacy organization 907 Initiative says they chose to invite food trucks and gather in a central location instead of a march because of the working class who would be coming from their jobs.
People got off their job at 5 o'clock. They're hungry. They want to drink a beer. We have a beer garden. This is a celebration. It is different than I think some of the marches that you've seen, and I think there's a place for all of those events.
Weber says Anchorage was one of 15 protests happening across Alaska. Since President Donald Trump's inauguration, Alaskans have rallied on multiple occasions in a movement calling for protests in all 50 states. Protest signs addressing a wide variety of issues and actions taken by the Trump administration. Alaskan protesters say they're fearful of how the anticipated impact of tariffs and federal funding cuts will impact Alaska's specific circumstances. Philip Walters is a part of the Anchorage Education Association. Looking to the future, he's worried about how federal funding cuts could hurt Alaska education and came to represent fellow teachers.
I'm just completely unhappy with how everything's gone down in the last couple months. Especially here in Alaska, we're seeing a lot of cuts that don't need to happen. Specifically for schools, our education funding is just getting slashed. We're watching teachers getting displaced, getting fired, getting laid off.
Olivia Nordyke, Alaska's news source.
Those protests follow President Trump and Elon Musk publicly defending DOGE spending cuts earlier this week. Musk even receiving praise at this week's cabinet meeting.
You have been treated unfairly, but the vast majority of people in this country really respect and appreciate you. You know, you're invited to stay as long as you want. At some point, I guess, he wants to get back home to his car.
Musk called DOGE effective in the grand scheme, saying more progress is possible. DOGE set out to cut $1 trillion in spending. Musk claims he's cut $160 billion, but those cuts have triggered lawsuits and pushback, including court battles. Numerous demonstrations were held around the world Thursday. Sherelle Hubbard takes a closer look at how this International Day of Solidarity is being used to demand change across all 50 states and far beyond.
Global citizens reveled in May Day, traditionally a day of protest and civil action for labor rights, also known as International Workers' Day. Demonstrators advocate for fair wages and working conditions.
We're here talking about everything that's going on with these corporations. We got to let them know that without us, there would be no use.
In the United States, May Day got a boost from the 50-51 movement, short for 50 protests, 50 states, one movement. Protesters demonstrated against the Trump administration's actions over its first 100 days. Protesters from the May Day Strong Coalition say they are, quote, demanding a world where every family has housing, health care, fair wages, union protection, and safety, regardless of race, zip code, or immigration status. Among the speakers, the family of Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland man wrongly deported to El Salvador.
My husband was illegally detained, abducted, and disappeared, thrown away to die in one of the most dangerous prisons in El Salvador.
Followers of the movement are optimistic that this National and International Day of Solidarity will bring change.
To show that we have a voice and we're not going to be quiet. We're not going to shut up. We're going to be loud.
I'm Sherelle Hubbard reporting.
Many of the marches were led by the 50-51 movement, which calls for protecting the Constitution and limiting executive power. Last night in Fairbanks, Golden Valley Electric held its annual members meeting. Leaders shared strategic updates and said federal election shifts have delayed funding, forcing them to resubmit plans for projects that were already approved. They also addressed dropping customer satisfaction and a likely need for rate increases, both key targets in their current strategic plan.
We just approved last week our strategic plan that is a company-wide strategic plan for the entire organization of Golden Valley. Hits on things like human resources, finances, and reliability and rates. So that to me was something that seemed to be missing. We had strategy and strategic plans on certain areas, but not a very broad strategic plan.
Members were also given a chance to question the CEO directly during a Q&A at the end of the night. When we come back, it's Mind Over Menu, how a DOPA menu could help you focus, relax, and stay motivated. A simple trick to boost your brain in this morning's Health Watch. But first, birds of a feather are flocking to Fairbanks. We have the details on the wild scavenger hunt taking flight this month and how you can join in, all for a good cause.
Showers still with us from south central to southeast, but activity should die down into the weekend. I'll have more on that. But first at sunrise, 5:46 in Anchorage, 5 o'clock in Juneau. Your full forecast is next.
Welcome back and happy Friday. Get your binoculars and bring your bird brain. Fairbanks is hosting a feathered scavenger hunt. The Alaska Songbird Institute launched a birding challenge to spot species and support research. From hawks to hummingbirds, check off enough and you could win a prize. The fundraiser helps track migration, lifespans, and population shifts. And even if you miss a few birds, you might catch a rare sight or two along the way. Do much bird watching, Aaron?
Yeah, you know, every now and then, walking outside, anytime I'm trying to get dive bombed by a seagull, but I've seen the Canadian
That does
geese.
tend to happen here in our parking lot, too.
Yeah, the Canadian geese, they've come back. I love seeing more of that wildlife and nature opening up as spring continues to bloom across the state. 41 currently here in Anchorage, 43 in Fairbanks, 37 degrees in Northway out towards Atoke, and then, of course, as you head towards southeast, we continue to hold on to those rain showers. Activity for the Panhandle will be a lot lighter today, but we'll still see that potential for up to an inch of rainfall accumulation. 31 in Nome, 14 in Kotzebue, and there's that snow that we're seeing through parts of the Aleutians, as well as some areas of wintry mix as that low skirts the Aleutian chain through the remainder of today into the weekend. As far as what we're dealing with across the Gulf Coast region, there's that low that has been persistent and continues to remain with us. That's keeping waves of moisture that has been building in across south central, southeast, even as you head out towards Bristol Bay and parts of the Alaska Peninsula this morning, waking up to some of those rain showers. And when we look in the upper levels of the atmosphere, the jet stream staying well to our south, but notice just to the east of that low in the Gulf, we've got that jet pulling in plenty of moisture, not only into south central as well as southeast, but the interior as well. And we're expected to see some heavier rainfall as well as some snowfall building into the interior throughout today on into your Saturday. So that's going to end that stretch of some drier conditions that have been building through parts of Fairbanks and the surrounding locations for quite some time. You see, we ended April with well over an inch above what we should for this time of year. We're starting off May fairly seasonal. We did see 1/100 of an inch of rainfall yesterday, and we are going to continue to tack on to additional rounds of rain for our Friday. So rain out towards southeast will remain heavier today. It will lighten up towards the afternoon and evening hours. You can see here across south central that activity begins to kind of taper off as we welcome in your Saturday. Most of that moisture shifting north into the interior where we're going to see rain and snow to be expected. And then as we are going to still see the potential for some showery weather as we welcome in our Saturday, we're watching Sunday into next week as another low builds back into the Gulf Coast region. And you can see just how widespread that rain is by Sunday morning. So we're going to continue to hold on to this wet weather pattern. There will be some dry time. Much like today, we'll see ample opportunities for some of those dry conditions outside of some of those passing showers. And from today on into your Sunday, You can see anywhere from about an inch of rain near Seward, slightly higher amounts out towards western parts of Prince William Sound. And then as you head through the southeast, we're going to see anywhere from about half an inch to nearly 2 inches of rainfall. So this wet weather pattern staying with us. We will see partly cloudy skies today with those temperatures warming into the 40s and the 50s. So it will be a lot drier for inland locations, but we are still holding on to these wet conditions. 50s as you head out towards southeast. Those winds will be quite breezy at times. And you can see up to about an inch of rain will be possible for today in some of those harder hit areas. 40s and 50s across the Kenai with those rain showers remaining. Up to 1.5 inches of rain as you head out towards Whittier, 48 in Valdez, 52 in Golconda. There's some sunshine as you head into the valley today with those temperatures still managing to warm into the mid-50s. So it's going to be quite nice as we head into the afternoon hours. 51 here in Anchorage with those partly cloudy skies. And then you can see that 7-day forecast continuing to favor more peaks of sunshine into our Saturday. Those clouds thicken up by Sunday, leading to that chance for rain as we welcome in Cinco de Mayo.
All right, thanks, Aaron. In Fairbanks, the Filipino American Society brought the community together for its annual General Assembly. The mid-April event served as a business meeting to plan for the rest of 2025. Leaders also honored volunteers who helped power events over the past year. The PhilAm president says celebrating every contribution, big or small, helps keep the community strong and united.
When you're leaving your homeland and you can feel isolated when you're in a new country, and having organizations like the Filipino American Society gives Filipino people a place to come to celebrate and stay connected with their culture.
The PhilAm president urges Filipino Americans to join future events as a way to stay rooted in their culture and community. Well, if you're feeling unfocused, unmotivated, or just plain stuck, doctors say the fix might be on the menu. A DOPA menu, a new way to boost motivation and feel-good chemicals with simple, personalized activities. In this morning's Health Watch, Ariane Aramburo explains how to design a DOPA menu to help boost focus and motivation.
If your to-do list keeps getting longer, but the motivation to get things done is in short demand, you're not alone. And experts say a dopamine menu or DOPA menu may be just what you need.
It's a personalized list of activities that can bring you relaxation, relief, and reward.
Dr. Sanjay Gupta says dopamine is a neurotransmitter and a key part of our brain's reward system. He says it's critical for decision-making, planning, and the ability to pay attention.
If you can trigger your brain and access that dopamine, it can help you focus.
To design your own DOPA menu, Gupta says to write down a list of activities that you can turn to before it's needed. They should be reasonable to do and ones you personally enjoy. Consider ones that involve mindful movement, like a short walk, a one-song dance party, or a bike ride. You could also consider creative outlets like writing, social connections, taking a break to see a friend, or rest and recovery like a short nap or a soothing bath.
Organize your menu the way a restaurant does. Appetizers are small breaks. Main dishes take a bit longer, and desserts are more indulgent. Just remember, have fun with it.
Ariane Aramburo, Alaska's news source.
Well, she's a mom, businesswoman, and helping others connect to loved ones who have died. Here's Ariane Aramburo once more with a preview of this week's Parenting in the Far North podcast.
I had a chance to sit down with Chelsea De La Rosa, who calls herself the Alaska Medium. So it was a very eye-opening and interesting conversation. She says her ability to connect with people who have passed is something that she's had since she was little. And while she can't turn it off, she's learned how to make it work alongside motherhood and running a business. Now, she does have to set boundaries, and you'll hear her explain why she doesn't really like going out to eat a lot with her family.
If we're out at dinner and there is somebody who is serving us, and they have like a really strong loved one who wants to communicate with them, I'll have to get up and leave, because unless I feel like okay to pass on that message, it's like energy pent up and I just start to get overwhelmed with emotion.
Her episode is out now. You can listen to the full conversation on Parenting in the Far North. Just download it wherever you get your podcast. Ariane Aramburo, Alaska's news source.
Well, as April came to a close, so too did our Million-Mile Challenge with Make-A-Wish Alaska, and we have the final tally. And we are thrilled to announce we have surpassed our goal with 1,054,953 miles donated. A big thank you to all who have donated to help make wishes come true for kids right here in Alaska. That is just amazing.